Hello, this is Tripoli 41, Lecture 6. Today, we'll discuss the third carrier action, generation and recombination, identify how RG works in the creation or elimination of excess carrier concentrations, and introduce the concept of minority carrier lifetime. Hopefully, the students will be able to do the following by the end of the lecture and after practicing with the problem solving. First, differentiate actual, equilibrium, and excess carrier concentrations. Identify when LLI or low-level injection approximations can be used. Identify how thermal RG works to relax carrier concentrations back to thermal equilibrium values. And lastly, define minority carrier lifetime. The third carrier action, aside from drift and diffusion, is RG. Generation is a process in which electrons and holes are created in pairs, while recombination is a process in which electrons and holes are annihilated in pairs, essentially the reverse of generation. Generation and recombination processes act to change the carrier concentrations and thereby indirectly affect current flow. First, we'll discuss common generation processes. The way we have visualized so far the creation of EHPs is through what we call direct or band-to-band generation. This process is accompanied by thermal or light energy being absorbed by a valence band electron to generate an electron-hole pair. Another common generation process is what we call indirect or band-to-band generation. This process is actually the dominant generation process in silicon and germanium. This process is also called trap-assisted generation because indirect generation can only happen through trap energy levels at the middle of the forbidden region, similar to ED and EA introduced by dopants. However, ET or trap energy levels are found somewhere near the middle of the forbidden region and are caused by impurities or imperfections in the semiconductor crystal. Indirect generation or generation through RG centers or traps is a two-step process where the electrons absorb thermal energy to go from valence band to the trap energy level and then into the conduction band. Note that the two steps are smaller in energy than band-to-band generation and thus are easily met. The third generation process is called impact ionization, where carriers are accelerated by a strong electric field, as seen in the slope of the energy band diagram, to achieve a kinetic energy that is larger than Eg. When the kinetic energy when the high kinetic energy free electron bumps into a valence electron, the valence electron receives energy greater than Eg to produce another electron-hole pair. The original free electron simply loses its kinetic energy but remains as a conduction or free electron. Note that this happens only for very high electric fields. Ideally, electrons at lower electric fields can also achieve kinetic energies greater than Eg. However, due to scattering, electrons slow down before achieving such high kinetic energies. For recombination, we first have direct or band-to-band recombination. When electrons meet a hole in the crystal, they can recombine and the energy is released in the form of light. The requirements for this process are actually not easy to meet and is dominant only for what we call as direct semiconductors. Examples of direct semiconductors include gallium arsenide and gallium nitride. Silicon and germanium are not direct semiconductors but are considered indirect semiconductors, where direct recombination does not happen often because of the band structure of the material. The second recombination process is called indirect recombination, or RG center, or trap-assisted recombination. In this process, free electrons occupy first a free trap energy level, releasing thermal energy in the process, and then getting demoted into the valence band after encountering a hole, releasing thermal energy for a second time. The whole process results in the annihilation of an electron-hole pair. The requirements for this process are less restrictive as electrons and holes do not have to meet in or occur in the same position in the crystal at the same time. The electron in the trap energy level can simply wait for a hole to pass by to complete the recombination process. This recombination process is the most common and dominant one for indirect semiconductors like silicon and germanium. The last recombination process is the OJ recombination process. In this process, when two free electrons collide near a hole, one of the electrons recombines with the hole and gets demoted to the valence band. However, instead of releasing phonon or thermal energy, the other electron nearby absorbs the energy and gains a high kinetic energy. The kinetic energy absorbed also eventually gets converted to thermal energy as the electron slows down as it collides within the crystal. This process is uncommon and considerable only in highly doped materials where there are a lot of carriers and the probability of two electrons and a hole meeting around the same vicinity is higher than moderately doped semiconductors. The generation and recombination processes we just discussed leads to the seemingly average or constant carrier concentrations N and P when we leave the material at rest or in thermal equilibrium. However, we will now consider cases where the carrier concentrations are perturbed from their equilibrium values. We'll now use the variables N and P to denote the carrier concentration of a material in general, whether it is in equilibrium or not. To differentiate the values at thermal equilibrium, we will use N0 and P0 to denote the equilibrium values. Whatever happens to the carrier concentrations, the equilibrium values stay the same. This is assuming that the doping and temperature does not change. And so we now introduce what we call the excess carrier concentrations and use delta N and delta P to denote them. By definition, delta N is just N minus N0, while P is just P minus P0, or what is in excess from the equilibrium values. Alternatively, we can just write the carrier concentration to be the equilibrium value plus the excess carrier concentration. Note that N, P, N0, and P0 are always greater than or equal to 0 and can never be negative. On the other hand, delta N and delta P can be positive, negative, or 0. Lastly, we have the charge neutrality condition where delta N is just equal to delta P, as Rg always works to generate or annihilate electrons and holes in pairs. Next, we define what is low-level injection or LLI, which is an important case that simplifies our analysis of semiconductors. Low-level injection is the condition when the disturbance from the equilibrium is small, that the majority carrier concentration is not affected significantly. In equation form, this means that the absolute value of delta N is much less than N naught for an N-type semiconductor, or delta P, or the absolute value of delta P, is much less than P naught for a P-type semiconductor. These equations can also be translated as N is approximately N naught and P is approximately P naught for N and P-type semiconductors respectively. However, the minority carrier concentration can be significantly affected but still be considered as low-level injection. However, there is also a limit to this, as we have pointed out that the two excess carrier concentrations are related and must be equal. Looking back, we have defined thermal equilibrium to be the dynamic situation in which every process is balanced by its inverse process. Carrier drift is balanced by carrier diffusion, and the electron-hole pair generation is balanced by electron-hole pair recombination. In a material under thermal equilibrium, the electron and hole concentrations do not effectively change in time, as the generation and recombination processes cancel out, although this does not mean that there are no free electrons or holes in the system. To analyze how Rg affects the carrier concentrations, we will use the following notations. First, note how the recombination and generation are expressed as the change in electron or hole concentration as a function of time. Next, note how the recombination and generation components are written separately and are added to get the effective change in carrier concentrations. For now, we'll assume that the change in carrier concentration is influenced only by the recombination and generation. Note also how that the change in carrier concentrations in time are equated to zero, as we are considering that case of equilibrium. Remember also that recombination always tends to reduce the carrier concentration in time, and thus delta P or delta N over delta T for recombination is always negative. On the other hand, delta P or delta N over delta T for generation is always positive, as generation tends to increase the carrier concentration. This now makes it easier to see how the two can end up summing to zero when in thermal equilibrium. What happens when a semiconductor relaxes back to an equilibrium state after being perturbed? Consider a semiconductor with no external current flow, meaning no carriers are being introduced or extracted from the system, but are all being generated or annihilated from within. Assume also that the disturbance mentioned caused a creation of excess electrons and holes within low-level injection conditions. Again, low-level injection is where the majority carrier concentration is not affected significantly. Thus, initially, the material is not in thermal equilibrium, where delta P and delta N are both greater than zero. Since we are considering a sudden creation of excess holes and electrons in this example. Under these assumptions, the only phenomenon that can help the material relax back to its equilibrium concentrations is through the overall effect of the RG processes within the material, since there is no way for the excess carriers to go out of the material through current. Since there are excess electrons, the only way for the system to achieve equilibrium conditions or equilibrium concentrations is for the recombination to overpower the generation. We then proceed by describing more details how recombination occur under low-level injection conditions as assumed. Before proceeding, we note that for silicon, which is the most common semiconductor, and also germanium, the dominant RG mechanism is through indirect thermal RG. The following discussion is applicable only for such materials called indirect semiconductors. In an N-type indirect semiconductor under LLI, there are many electrons that can occupy and indeed occupy trap energy levels which are below EF and thus have high chances of being occupied based on the Fermi function. So since we are considering N-type, then the Fermi level must be somewhere above EI, and if ET is somewhere in the middle, then the chances that these energy levels are occupied is high. However, most of these electrons are trapped because there are a lot of electrons in the conduction band. Recall that we are talking about an N-type material and that there are even more electrons in the valence band. Thus, these electrons cannot go to states above or below just because there are no states available. These trapped electrons can only proceed and complete the recombination process if a hole or a free state happens to appear near the trapped electron. In this situation, the more holes there are, the more recombination that can happen. However, note that holes are the minority carriers in an N-type material. Thus, we can say that indirect thermal recombination or even generation is limited by the minority carriers for an indirect semiconductor under LLI conditions. In our example, the electrons do not limit the process as the electrons are the one waiting for the holes. The equations shown describe how the net indirect thermal RG can be quantified. The detailed analysis is outlined in the book, so the curious learner is advised to read the book. Going back to the equations, the net rate of recombination and generation turns out to be dependent on the excess minority carrier concentrations, delta N for p-type materials, and delta P for N-type materials. The expressions are also written only for the minority carrier RG, but it can be equated to the majority carrier RG as RG always happen in pairs. Thus, for a p-type material, this expression right here can also be equated to the change in P with respect to time due to thermal RG. On the other hand, this expression right here can also be said to be just equal to the change in electron concentration with respect to time due to RG, just from the fact that the RG happens in pairs. A new variable tau is also introduced in these thermal RG equations. The minority carrier lifetime, or tau, is the average time that an excess minority carrier is able to survive in a sea of majority carriers before being annihilated or recombined. This tau should not be confused with the mean free time, tau m, discussed for the drift of carriers. The term recombination lifetime is also used for the minority carrier lifetime. Since we are talking about minority carrier concentrations, the relevant tau, or minority carrier lifetime, for an N-type semiconductor is denoted as tau p, where p is used to denote specifically the minority carrier lifetime of holes. While for p-type, the relevant tau is tau n, or the minority carrier lifetime of free electrons. Tau ranges from around 1 nanoseconds to 1 milliseconds in silicon. This depends on the metallic impurities, or on the density of metallic impurities such as gold and platinum. The density of these impurities can also be referred to as the trap concentration, similar to how donor and acceptor concentrations are formulated. Aside from impurities, the minority carrier lifetime also depends on the density of crystalline defects. Thus, trap energy levels can also be found in the purest silicon or purest crystal as long as there are defects in the formation of the crystal. These deep traps, or RG centers, capture electrons or holes to facilitate recombination. The term deep trap is used to describe introduced energy levels near the center or the middle of the forbidden region. Thus, EA near EV or ED near EC are not considered as deep traps as they are found at the edge or near the edge of the forbidden region. Let's inspect further what the formulation means or tells us. Let us consider an N-type material where the indirect thermal RG is determined by the excess minority carrier concentration or excess holes as seen in the equation. First, if there were excess electrons, then delta P must be greater than 0, and this would mean that delta P over delta T, due to thermal RG or this term here, must be less than 0 or negative because of this negative sign. A negative dP over dt means that holes are decreasing in time and that recombination must be more dominant than generation. It must be made clear, however, that dP over dt being negative does not mean that generation does not happen. Generation still occurs, but recombination is just stronger or happens more frequently. It must also be noted that recombination dominates when there are excess carriers, and thus RG combined works and tries to reduce the carrier concentration back to the thermal equilibrium value. Thus, when there is a deficit of carriers, which means delta P is negative, then the net dP over dt due to thermal RG must be positive or greater than 0, and this would mean that generation dominates for this case with deficit of holes. Again, we see that in this case, Rg still tries to increase P back to its equilibrium value, since generation dominates while delta P is less than 0. Always remember that Rg in an indirect semiconductor such as silicon under low-level injection conditions is limited and determined by the excess minority carriers, while the Rg of majority carriers will just follow since Rg happens in pairs. For arbitrary injection levels, not necessarily LLI, or even as the majority carrier concentrations are perturbed significantly, in a non-degenerate semiconductor, the net rate in the change of carrier concentration due to Rg centers or indirect thermal Rg is given by the equation shown. This equation applies for both p-type and n-type non-degenerate semiconductors, again regardless of which carrier we are considering, as Rg always happens in pairs. The denominator in the equation is always positive. Thus, we can generalize that for indirect thermal Rg or indirect thermal Rg dominated materials, in summary, Rg processes affect carrier concentrations over time, which will eventually influence current flow. Generation is enhanced by near mid-gap states or deep traps associated with impurities or defects. Generation is also enhanced in very high electric fields with impact ionization. In silicon, Rg is primarily via Rg centers. Recombination is also enhanced by these mid-gap states or deep traps. With an excess or deficit of carriers, the carrier concentrations can be written as N is equal to N naught plus delta N and P is equal to P naught plus delta P, where N naught and P naught are the equilibrium carrier concentrations, and delta N and delta P are the excess carrier concentrations, which can be positive, negative, or zero. N, P, N naught, and P naught, on the other hand, cannot be negative. For indirect semiconductors under low-level injection conditions, we have the following equations, where the net Rg rate is determined by the minority carrier concentration and tau, which is the characteristic time constant for indirect Rg. Take note that the negative sign in the equation tells us that if there are excess carrier concentration, the recombination should be the dominant process, whereas if there is a deficit of carrier concentration, then generation must be the dominant process. And that's it for Lecture 6. Thank you very much.